Kane, you've been spot on about the defensive need on some of the creative players in the comp. You led the agenda on this, and Nick Dacos ran into it on the weekend. Before we get to that, let's take a look back at what Kane had to say.
Matthew Nick's lack of respect for Dacos, who I'm telling you would wake up. He wouldn't have a bruise on him, not a scratch on him. He wouldn't even be tired because Adelaide just let him run around doing what he wants, and they got what they deserved yesterday. So who's going to be the first coach that's going to actually tag him this year? They've won 8 in a row with him just dominating off half-back. Let's try something like what John Longmire does and tag Bailey Dale or tag the other players. They went after Clark yesterday from Freo. They're just allowing him to play like he's playing, and that's what you get.
And you call this guy the Clarksman instead of the Marksman. You've been spot on about Ryan Clark.
There's the
Tell us about
Clarksman.
the Clarksman.
Well, I can't believe it's taken to round 22, but every team needs a Clarksman, Hutchie. That's what he has done. He's taken away Jack Sinclair, Bailey Dale, Brodie Smith, Dawson, Hall and Dacos yesterday. And in the finals, what about some of the matchups that he may come across? So if it's Richmond, it'll be Dan Rioli. If it's Geelong, it could be Tom Stewart. Brisbane have got Rich and Kitty Coleman. So I think everyone needs one. And Sydney have got the advantage because they've had it.
They've trained the Clarksman into this defensive forward
100%.
role.
And
began with Sinclair.
They're the only
How many
ones...
other teams are going to try and find a Clarksman in the finals?
Well, we're seeing a little bit of what has happened, but Sydney have had that method in place for longer, and I'm just telling you, they've
Can you
got an
teach it
advantage.
in 2 weeks?
No, because it's the defensive forward role is specialised. You can put a run with midfield, and that's reasonably simple. But you need to be a really smart player. He's the Clarksman.
He's not a marksman, Caro. He's a Clarksman.
Hey, Hutch, I want to talk about Collingwood, and I think that's not a bad thing. I know it's going to cost them maybe a top 2, top 4 spot, but I reckon as a coach, when you win games by 5 or 6 points, some weeks you've got to go in and say treat it like a loss, so players aren't getting caught up in the miracle like the Essendon one, how they got out of jail that day. I couldn't believe it with the kick after the siren, but you celebrate it and you don't probably drill down as hard as you possibly could. I think the Sydney loss was a good loss for them, and to say, OK, we got away with a few wins that maybe we shouldn't have won, and it's not a bad thing going into the finals.
11 in a row be a coincidence? I reckon that's harsh.
You still a believer?
No one saw Collingwood coming this year.
Are you a believer this year?
And I love Craig McRae's response. He's saying, I agree, we should have done this, we should have done that, but we won. Let's just... I mean, I think that players would love that, Matthew. And they'd all get behind that, and it's worked for 11 games
What you have now, though, Caro, is a method leading up to finals of what the other teams can do, and Melbourne sort of put that on the radar with no duck, no dinner, but this is sort of how Sydney...
All duck, no dinner.
All duck, no dinner, sorry, Hutchie. This is what they did yesterday. These are the vulnerabilities, I guess, and when you lose, you look at that. Moore and Howe are vulnerable because of the attacking way that they play across half-back. We touched on Dacos, with the goey out, they were exposed in the midfield and also the scores from turnover. And I just thought Craig McRae threw the midfield magnets around too much. So both Dacoses went in there. Maynard and Sidebottom spent a lot of time in there. So we'll watch it. Clearly a big game on Sunday against the Blues.
Just on De Goey, he's an interesting one because they do miss him when he doesn't play, but this will be the 29th. This weekend, if he misses, will be the 30th game that he's missed in 5 years. So you've got to weigh up the value he gives you versus, OK, we don't get him enough anyway. So, Hutch, that's an interesting thing to know what to do.
And they're a bit better with them without, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's an abnormality or otherwise. So there's always a team that Swans in late, and could it actually be the Swans? They landed second with a round to go.
That's what I love about AFL footy. It's about who's the best side late in the year. And Geelong are the best side in it, but the Swans are coming with an absolute bullet. And you can just see they've ramped up everything. Still points against second, tackles first, disposals third, contested second. So they are all finals numbers. And, good luck trying to stop them. So at this stage, a Geelong-Sydney grand final could potentially be on the cards.
Doesn't it whet your appetite with 6 teams really in the cut and thrust for the top 4? I think Jared Waitley said today 278 combinations, the top 9 into the final round. The AFL must be wrapped